What's up? Welcome to episode 11 of the Notes Podcast. I'm here with w0ndr. Good to have you.
Good to have you here.
I sighed because I was like, don't mess up. We were literally just talking about the episode with Turo where I completely missed the dap and it just was an issue. But yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Good friend, good homie, also an artist. Just go ahead and introduce yourself. Say what's up and who you are.
Yeah, okay. I'm w0ndr or Hunter also. I guess I kind of fluctuate on the kind of music. I feel like I met Derek and a lot of people by doing hyper poppy stuff, but I also have a band called w0ndr. We make more pop punk rock shit. We do a lot of shit with Drugs of Choice.
It's fucking sick.
Yeah, thank you.
Seen w0ndr now. You guys performed twice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And both times I was there.
Yeah.
It's fucking sick. And
Thank
I'm
you.
hyped for the next performances and stuff too.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
gonna be dope.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so, and I feel like I play a lot of, I feel like I stayed friends with a lot of these producers by playing guitar and stuff for them,
Mhm.
you know, and just, I roll up with Conductor Biz a lot, and we'll drop, guitar on his beats and stuff, so,
Yeah.
mostly that.
Yeah, super talented guy. Fucking for w0ndr, you play guitar and you do the vocals,
Mhm.
and then you got
Eli.
on the drums,
Yeah,
and it's just you guys do
just us.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Super dope. I've seen you perform both with w0ndr and also solo.
Mm-hmm.
Because we met. When did we meet? It was 2022.
Yeah,
Something like
what's
that?
so funny is we didn't even we played a show together, but I never
Yeah.
actually met you.
Yeah.
But we followed each other, and then I would always just be I just love chatting, DMing my music friends and being like,
Yeah.
that sounds sick, bro.
Yeah.
So I think the first time I actually met you is when I came over here.
Okay.
One time.
Okay.
But we had played a show together. We were in the room together.
Right.
But I don't know if I ever got introduced to you
Yeah.
until I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna hang out with them. And then you started doing tattoos. I think that was when I was like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna come over and get tattoos.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, because that's really when we started chatting and
Mhm.
got to know you and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah, I guess we'll just. I mean, I gotta stop apologizing for this to every artist that comes on here, but I kind of have pretty much explain how you got into music and what
Okay.
really was that process and everything like that. I only say I apologize for it because that's literally every single episode. I'm like, okay, there's this point to hit, there's this point to hit.
No, yeah, let's do
but
it.
You know what I mean?
No,
yeah.
it keeps it structured for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So what got you into music?
Well, I feel like I had kind of a weird music journey because I always wanted to get into music as a kid. You know, I listened, but I was a kid growing up in the 2000s with kind of normie parents. So I would only really listen to the pop on the radio and stuff. And then I'd have music. I literally had guitar lessons and piano lessons, and I played drums for a few years. And I was just kind of always not that good at it. I don't know what. I don't know, just the way I was getting taught, it just didn't make sense. Or maybe I wasn't personally locking
Just
in.
drums or everything?
Everything.
Really?
Yeah, I was I had guitar lessons and piano lessons and drum, because my parents were just I was an only child, so they just throw me into whatever activity they wanted to do after school. So I was feel I never got it. I could kind of drum, but not really. And then I was in middle school and early high school, I got really emo. And I was Fall Out Boy, My Chemical Romance.
Quite the time to get emo.
Yeah, exactly. I was it's the time to do it.
Yeah.
And really that listening to music, because it was I listened to you know, I'd been forced to listen to pop music. I guess I wasn't. I could have listened to other things. My parents were just very strict, so there was no there's no rap or anything for me. And so when I finally got to choose my own music, and I was oh my god, I'm so angsty right now, and now Pierce the Veil is singing about how angsty they are. This is perfect. And then I was I want to be like them, you know. So that's really weirdly being super into emo bands made me be fuck. I'd listen to them and I'd be I listen to My Chemical Romance being I want to be up there slamming, the guitar solo. So then I don't know. Then I had some friends. It's Lutheran high school I used to go to, and they played instruments. So I was just let's start a band. And I didn't even play an instrument, but I was just let's start a band, please. I want to be in a band. Because none of them I was the only emo kid at the fucking school.
Yeah.
But they were kind of into rock and stuff. So I was please, let's start a band. And then I harped on my mom for months. Because I was what would be easier? I feel bass would be easier. Because one of our friends already played guitar. And we had a friend that was a drummer. And so I was and we had a friend that was a good singer. So I was well, I could play bass. And now it's only 4 strings. You know, it's when I was overwhelming as guitar. And so I harped on my mom for like months. I would like play her songs and I would be like, I'll learn this if you buy me a bass.
You're like trying to guilt her.
Yeah, there's a bass riff in "Is the Drug in Me Is You" by Falling in Reverse, which is such like a cringy emo song, but the bass line's so hard, and I would play it for her, and I'd be like, it was actually really hard because it's in like drop C sharp, and it's actually, when I actually got the bass, it was so complicated. But I was like, I'll learn it.
But you had to learn it. You made that promise, dude.
And so eventually she did buy me like a little Epiphone bass.
Okay.
And then I literally, it was so weird because my whole point was my whole life I feel like I was so bad at it, and then I just like found a YouTube video for like the song. I didn't start with like, all my friends are always like, I wish I could play music, and I'm like, then do it,
right?
You know, because like I just sat down and they wanted to cover Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day, and so I just Googled how to play Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day on YouTube, you know, and then he was like, okay, you go to this fret and then you go up to this fret, and I just did it, you know, and then it's like from then on you just like figure it out. So and then I was at the Lutheran school, so then I joined their church band. Unfortunately, it was a dark time in my life.
Would you say that like helped you at all?
Yeah, because there was a guy there. He was easily at the school. He was like the musician, right? You know, he's so talented. He's married to one of my other friends now.
Really?
Yeah, which is cool. Yeah, okay. So he's cool. But he was the one that was like, I was like, yeah, I can play bass. You know, I was just so overconfident. And then I sat down and he could clearly see that I had no idea what I was, like I could vaguely understand what I was doing. And then he was like, here, this is like, because they give us chords, like they just be like, here's the song and it's A, C, G, D, and then I was like, how the fuck do I do this on bass? And so he was like, you need to learn the notes on the fretboard, and he's like, and so then if it says you're playing A to C, then you just play the A note and then C note. He's like, and then you learn scales and you can fuck around and make more of like a design. And so I was like, okay. So I went home and I learned it, and then all of a sudden that was really easy because then I memorized the notes. So it was just like, it actually weirdly, not the church band necessarily, but this guy helped me really like hone in on that, you know? And then from then on I was just like, oh my God, I fucking love music. Yeah. Like I don't want to do.
And this was after you had already taken like lessons for guitar and piano and stuff. Didn't really work out. And then from that you just hopped on bass and you were like, okay, hell yeah. And then figured it out from there for the most part. That's dope. That's actually really dope. Damn. So when did you start like making music and like the, you know, you going like, okay, wait, I want to sing, I want to write, rap, everything.
I was at this Lutheran school, and then I came out as trans, obviously, and then they were not very chill about it.
Dude, at the Lutheran school?
At the Lutheran school, they did not like that shit. Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know, they were just fucking dickheads. And so I was like, I need to go to a different school. And right up the street from my house was Metro Arts. Okay. And so my parents were like, what is that nice little art school up the street? You know, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's nice. And so I went, and we went to the thing, and I was like, I'm like a sad trans kid, like stuck at this scary school, and they like jumped me the waiting list and got me in like that week. It was really cool. Cool. And so, because they were like, you can be whoever you want here. But they were like, but you're transferring in the middle of the year, so you just have to go in whatever classes are free. Right. And one of the classes was a vocals class. Okay. And so I was like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. Like, I don't like singing. I'm not good at singing, you know? But then you were kind of forced. It was kind of a really weird class where he was just, every week he'd be like, pick a song to sing, and by the end of the week we're all gonna perform them and critique each other. So it was very free interesting form. He didn't like really teach us anything.
That's what I heard about Metro. I went to school right down the street.
Yeah, we're like the Walmart version of your high school.
It was like the rival fucking art schools, which is hilarious because it's art school, but yeah, no,
like 2 blocks away from each other. Really.
Yeah, no, literally. But it was really like, there were a lot of kids that, you know, because we were forced in choir too, like early on, and that I remember that with like a lot of kids.
Other thing.
So being forced into that is difficult, but so that's,
which is like, so it's like you can't not sing, I guess,
right? Yeah,
especially because this is like a solo. Every time it's like a solo thing.
Was it like just any song? They were like, just pick
Yeah,
one.
well, he'd be like a genre, or it would be like heartbreak songs.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, or like one week it was like pick a genre that you don't normally sing. I think it's like I did like a country song.
That's so interesting.
So it was honestly as goofy as it was. It's really not maybe educational in like the classical sense. But
right. That's what forced me. Yeah. That's what we were doing over down the street. Was hella classical stuff, but
yeah, Metro was more just like doing art. I don't know. Try. You know, but it ended up
kind of dope to be honest.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I always, when people are like, "Where'd you go to school?" I'm like, Metro, and I'm like, "What's that like?" I'll be like, "Have you ever seen Victorious?" Where they just kind of like sit in the halls and make music, and in the classes, you're like, "Are they even learning anything?" Yeah. Like that is like, I love Metro, but that is what it felt like in the best way. But it's like if I didn't go to Metro, I probably wouldn't be like the level of creative I am now.
Right.
But if you realized you wanted to do like something in math, you might be fucked. It's like if I had realized in college I really wanted to be like a financial banker, I might have been fucked. Like,
truly. I think that's where the big divide came from our schools. Because you
were set up. For
we were a college prep school. It was some crazy academic stuff as well.
We were a charter, a little charter.
I mean, we were a charter too.
Oh,
so
okay.
we could. You want to argue about this? Bring it back to fucking. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. But yeah, that's funny. Okay, so.
Yeah, so I was kind of forced to sing, and then from doing that, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then I don't know. And then I started a band with a couple of my friends at the time, and I drummed because they all played other things.
Okay.
And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna drum. And there's no way she'll ever watch this, so I'm gonna. But there's this. I feel bad saying this so publicly, but there's this girl in the band who she played the bass, and she was like, I can play bass. And I was like, oh, cool. And at that point, I had been playing bass for like a year and a half, and I felt really confident in it. Not really. I'd started guitar, but it was like I could play like a power chord, And I played guitar like I played bass, so it was like really just on the root notes. And, it wasn't like fancy stuff. And she was like, yeah, I can play bass. And so we learned this. I was like, okay, next time we hang out, we'll all have learned this song. And she had learned it. So I was like, okay, this is fun. It was another Green Day song, weirdly, because I didn't pick either of them. So it was like both of my first bands, we covered a Green Day song first.
Dope.
It was, And so so then we tried to do another song. We were like, fuck it. We're like emo kids. So we're like, let's do like Offspring, like Gonna Go Far Kid. And she was like, she paused on her phone for a second, and she's like, we can't do that song. And I was like, why? And she's like, there's no tutorial for it on YouTube. And I was like, what? And she's like, there's no tutorial for it. I was like, look up the tabs.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know how to read those.
Oh my God.
Because I was so good at bass, and I was just playing the drums because I didn't know. And I had started to feel you're a drummer, so I don't know if maybe it's different for you. But because I always talk to Eli about this, where I got so lonely. You know, maybe it's because I was meant to be like a guitarist or a bassist or something, but I'd be in the back, and I would be like, will you guys come like walk back here sometime? To like hang out with me. Please. I'm so lonely.
Yeah.
So
no, I feel that.
Like I should be up there playing the bass with you, And then doing that, I was like, why guys, we should like write our own music. And everyone was like, I don't know how to do that. And it was just another instance of me being like, why don't we just like do it then? So I feel like it was like junior, senior of high school that I was like really started to be like, I like music.
Okay.
But it wasn't until I started at ASU the first time that I was like, I want to do this like for the rest of my life. I don't know. I had a friend at the time who was also a really good musician. We would make a lot of stuff together. And so I would sit with him, and he was so good at guitar. And I would be like, okay, how did you do that? And I was like, I feel like that's my whole like mentality with music is like surround yourself with people that are like better than you, because then you can always be like, wait, what did you just do? Show me how to do that.
That's so real, actually. Yeah. That's like the whole way I learned producing, except it wasn't even like asking. I was just watching and going like, oh my God, okay, like that's how that works.
Well, I always say Biz and Skylar Myers, you know him, right? Yeah, I always say they, like, I wouldn't produce without them probably, because I would come over and I'd play guitar for them, but then they would still make the beat, so I just sit behind their shoulder, just like watching the screen, and I would do that. I'd be like, what'd you do there? And they're like, oh, blah, 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 and I'd be like, oh, okay, interesting.
Nerd shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh yeah, I EQ'd the whatever, and I'd be like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah. Jimmy sometimes would be like, you ever heard of a glue compressor? And I'd be like, no. Tell me more about this glue compressor, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I feel like if I didn't like hang out with them making like beats, I would have never wanted to make my own music. You know, I learned just how to like use Logic to record a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I was like to actually like make interesting music, you know, that's not just like the live track.
Yeah.
You know, like editing it and adding shit. I was like, it really is from like, to me, surrounding yourself from people that are better than you.
Yeah. Yeah. For real. So in college, so would you say that you learned like tracking and stuff before kind of meeting any producers and getting to that point, and then you kind of like figured out your own style and then like ended up meeting people, or how did that work? Not to just be like you did this.
No. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I literally got Logic. Really in high school I wanted to be like a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Because that was the other side of Metro that I guess I wasn't gonna harp on as much because it's a music podcast.
Yeah.
But in my senior year I got super into the film department, and it made me realize how much I love writing.
Okay.
And being like a script like writer, maybe not so much anymore, but like writing in general.
Film gang.
Yeah, film gang.
Yeah.
And so I love my whole senior year. It was like so much film all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I
didn't know they had a program for that actually. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's so fun is, here's another example of them being fucking ridiculous. They had film classes.
Yeah.
But you could also, with no prerequisites, get into this class called film projects.
Oh.
All right. And film projects is just every quarter you just make a film.
Okay.
You have the whole quarter for production and post production, all that stuff, and you can borrow whatever you need. And it's like, it was insane how like much that helped my creativity. Where they're just like, here, young creative person, here's all the resources to make whatever you want.
Huh.
So
That's cool.
I didn't, a lot of the kids in that class had already done all the film classes, so they were like really like snooty a little bit sometimes about like, well, this is how we did things, you know? And I was like, well, fuck it, let's just take the camera.
They were fucking film kids. Film kids are the most snooty
film kids
people
are
I've
intense.
ever. Yeah. Anyway.
And so I just came into the world of film, you know, so randomly, and I was like, this is so fun. So that was all to say that for my graduation, I had gotten a laptop, and I had bought the like student pack from Apple, and I bought it because it had Final Cut. Okay. But it also came with Logic. Okay. So then when in college, when I was really starting to like write music more, I was like, oh my God, I literally have Logic. Which, you know, so I had a Zoom mic. And Zoom mics, like the one I had, I used it for film. It actually had a headphone, or like an audio jack. Yeah. And so I was like, you know, it was kind of horrible quality, you know, but it made me be like, okay, this is how you track stuff. Right. So I kind of doing that on my own, just to be like, I want to put my ideas on the computer. Yeah. But then I was a freshman, but I didn't want to stay in the dorms because that just sounded like a nightmare. I to this day I don't understand how someone would share a room with this stranger. You know, I don't know. I'm just like, I've heard too many stories of it going so bad. And so I was like, I got on my knees with my parents, and I was like, please let me stay off campus for my first year. Like, let me, please. And I don't know, they were so nice to let me do it. But so that means I moved in with a bunch of sophomores that were the last year they had stayed. It was these 3 girls. And they, like Lexi and Kayla and all these people that conductor Biz knew. Okay. And so I would met Biz through party. I met him as Jimmy, you know? And so I was like, I met him at parties and stuff. Yeah. And then he was telling me that he was rooming with a whole bunch of like frat guys that were just throwing parties all the time or something like that at some point, and he was just like producing. Anyway. Yeah, that might have been. Was he like throwing parties? Was it parties at his place? His house, I feel like looked like it had parties often. Yeah. But I don't think I ever went to a party but yeah, that was kind of like the party days. Yeah. I think, you know, of like where it was like these crazy big house parties. I mean, it was ASU, you know, so it was like, but we lived literally right across the street from each other. Like I lived in the district, and he lived I can't remember the name right now for some reason, but it's the other really big famous building in Tempe on Apache, I don't know, fuck whatever, Tempe, fuck Tempe, and whatever, doesn't matter. And and so he was like, oh my God, you play guitar? And I was like, yeah. And I weirdly around that time, because I've been going to so many parties, I was like, oh my God, rap music's kind of good. Yeah. You know, I was such like an emo purist for a while of being like, this shit's trash. Honestly, for any other genre that wasn't, for the most part, I had some exceptions. Like weirdly, I would listen to only emo music in high school, like in 2016. But I really liked "I Spy" by Kyle. Do you know that song? Yeah. So it was like one of my favorite songs. But then it'd be like, then it's just a bunch of emo shit. I don't know. It was so. Yeah. I wish I could remember fully the mentality I used to have about that.
No, I was the same way with rap.
Yeah, like, it's like everything
rap
else
was
sucks.
my emo in terms of like the way. Yeah, but before that, I had like a little bit more of a eclectic music taste. Like, when I first like started figuring out about music, and then like saw, my friends were like recommending me stuff, but then by the time it hit like sophomore junior year of high school, it's just all rap and anything else. I was like, this is mid.
This is not as good.
But now I'm like, I respect everything a lot more than I did back then. But
yeah, exactly. So I was like, I'm dating myself, I guess, because I'm about to turn 25. But it was
same.
Like, yeah, okay,
let's go.
We're both, whatever, mid-20s.
2000s baby?
2000s baby.
Yeah. Let's go. 2000.
And it was when I first started at ASU, it was Astro World was like the album, And so I remember going to like parties, and Astro World would be just on a loop, Someone would just hack the Spotify, and just play on Astro Loop
just
or Astro World, and it was like, oh my God. But the longer I'd listen to it, I'd find the stoner circles, I'd sit out there with them, and I'd be like, oh my God, this shit actually slaps, And then it made me, and at the same time, I was also, all these people were ravers. Yeah. So then I was like, they kept being like, come to raves, and I was like, that was another one where I was like, I don't like EDM. I was such like an instrument purist, which is so weird now, because I love like everything, and I love digital music, but at the time,
I feel like your genre of music too, especially with your solo stuff, I feel like there's a lot of digital weird,
like hyper poppy shit. But at the time I was like, no, there's like 2 guitars and a bass, maybe a keyboardist, like I don't want it. But they were like, just come to the rave though. The rave's fun. So they were like, the ticket's like $30, come. And so I was like, fine. So I bought the ticket, and so I was like, I guess I should listen to these artists. And I remember listening to him being like, it's whatever, And then we went live, and one of the guys we saw, his name was Boogie T, and he's really cool, and he plays guitar live. So I think weirdly that helped my like, I don't know, kind of like a snooty brain. Like I was definitely like on a high horse for no reason about it. But then I was like, cause like DJs would fucking play, But then he's up there like shredding on his fucking guitar, and then DJ, and I was like, that's so impressive, And then I don't know, and then I just kept going to him. And then I was going to the parties and I was listening to rap, and all of a sudden I think there was a weird, and then I started hanging with Jimmy. So about around that same time, then I was around all these people that were making music that was like completely different to me, and I was like, this is just as fun to make, in like a completely different way. Yeah. So I feel like that's what started my like, I just want to make, like I can never decide what I want to make. That's why I'm glad there's like Indoor Sweater. Yeah. Because I have a lot of songs that I was like, I guess I'll release them as Wonder Boy, but I'm like, they're like rock songs, you know? So I'm like,
that's a good distinction, I feel like, between the two, because you guys also have like such a vibe live that like I like how you're able to separate the vibe of your solo stuff live with the band stuff. It's kind of like the same way that I'm trying to figure out.
Exactly.
But everything's kind of all over the place in my music world right now that I'm like, oh, shit. But yeah, no, it's really cool that you're able to do that. And is that kind of just how that started? Is you were just like
Indoor Sweater?
Yeah, like how.
It's kind of a weird story actually. It was for a while I've always wanted to like start another band. Yeah. But it's because drummers are so hard to come by, as you're like a hot commodity. Yeah, and so I had met Eli through I'm really close to my cousins, and my cousin's friend from high school was really good friends with Eli, and so the 3 of them would all hang out. And he was like, "Oh, you'd like Eli? He listens to metal, and he's a drummer and stuff, and he did Eli did like marching band at ASU and shit, and so he's like really talented." And so I was like, okay, and so when we met up, I I kept joking about starting a band, you know, because I was like, you're a drummer and I'm a, you know, guitarist and I write music. Let's make a band.
Yeah.
And we can make some metal. Obviously, Indoor Sweater is not really that metal right now, but the plan is to continuously get harder.
Okay.
You know?
That's sick.
You know?
That's actually dope. Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, the plan is to everything. Right now it's very like cutesy, you know? Not like some weird like scheme, but I was just like, what I'm good at writing is pop punky stuff where it's a little bit like I was like, Eli, we have to have some breakdowns, you know, but I was like, no, we gotta, it would be fun to slowly transition, and because Eli's a huge metalhead, so I was like, to transition,
that would be so cool actually. Okay.
So then maybe like a year from now we're up there and we're like, you know, and he's like, you know, like that would be the dream. Yeah you know, and intermingle it with stuff, whatever. But then I was literally wearing a sweater. So cousins were all close. Eli's friends with them, and I was hanging out with my other cousins, Tucker. They're triplets. That's why it's a little confusing. And it's a lot of cousins. And I was like, I love this sweater I'm wearing. And I was like, isn't it so nice? Because it's like you can wear it inside. You know, it's like an indoor sweater. And he was like, yeah, it is like an indoor sweater. And I was just like, I say it for a lot of things, you know, where I'll be like, that's a good band name. Yeah. You know, I was like, Indoor Sweater. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, yeah. I was like, check out Indoor Sweater if you heard Indoor Sweater's new EP. And I kept saying it. And it was a joke. And then I told Eli, I was like, yeah, our band, Indoor Sweater, right? And it was haha funny. Yeah. And then Tucker has a bunch of tattoos too. And he's like, haha, yeah, I'm gonna get it tatted on me. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, dude, that'd be so funny. And then he called me and he's like, hey, so I got it. And I was like, what? And he was like, and on the back, like, it's so big. It's like on the back of his arm. Really? Right there. It's in like a cursive font. It says Indoor Sweater. Wow. And I was like, oh my God. And so I'm like, now I literally joked with him for a while. I was like, I stay up at night sometimes thinking about the fact that I need to make it a real band, you know, because it's like 20 years from now, is he gonna be like, oh my God, that was, you know, my cousin's band, they like did actually some cool shit, or is he gonna be like, this is a weird story, you know, like let me tell you a long story, you know. I'm like, fuck, it's so big on your arm, Tucker. And so I don't know, it's so funny. It was badass to do, but I'm like, now we have to make Indoor Sweater like real, you know. So then we had just started practicing, I think, or I don't know, I think it was around the same time we started practicing that you hit me up about that Drugs of Choice show. Yeah, that would make sense, because I remember I was like, I hit up a whole bunch of artists and I was just like, yo, if you want to play a show or whatever, like you could just, you know, let me know. And you were like, I'm down, but not me, Indoor Sweater. And I was like, oh, fucking bet. Yeah, you asked me as w0ndr, but we were practicing. It was just like fate. Or then I was like, well, this is perfect, because we practicing, but sometimes when you don't have anything lined up and you never played anything, it's kind of like, what?
It's like, what you practice? It's just kind of like jamming, whatever.
Jamming.
Yeah, for the most
part.
I was
like, Eli, show next month.
That's good ass timing. I'm glad that worked out, because hell yeah.
Then I was like, we're gonna make it fucking happen. My one of the other triplets. I've now mentioned all three triplets in the thing. He's because they all have different purposes they can serve. They're so multifaceted. And because Sutton is an amazing photographer.
Is that what the parents were just like, we have to make sure that each one is...
It's so weird, they're triplets, but they could not be more different.
Wow.
You know, and they all different heights. They all look a little... Wow. Two of them look way more similar. Yeah. But they all are like so their own... You know, usually you think of twins and triplets and they're like, come play with us. You know, but it's like... No, they're so different. But Sutton is like an amazing photographer. And so I was like, Sutton, like... come over and I want to like cover me and Eli. We haven't really posted any of them yet, but I was like, but I'm gonna like cover me and Eli in blood. And Spencer, my boyfriend now, he wasn't at the time, like he did all our makeup to look like we were like beat up. I posted one before our show.
I think was that the same you're single, I forgot the name.
Bunker Hill.
Yeah, is that like
where he has the
yeah. Was that the same like shoot?
Yeah, it was. Okay. Yeah, so I have a bunch of pictures I haven't posted yet because I was like, they're too cool to like.
Yeah, you gotta save them.
You
gotta save them. You gotta save them for some big.
So I made like a fuck ton of fake blood. My mom was like freaking out, and I was like, it'll be fine.
You made it.
Yeah, it was.
How?
It's like really easy because I was like, I want fake blood that I just want to buy it, and I want to know that I have enough. You know, and I don't want to spend like $30 and be like, oh, we only needed like this much. And it's like red dye and like corn starch and like water. It was some really easy combo. Yeah, but it was like, it looks thick like blood, and it dries. Or no, it was corn syrup. Okay, because it dries so sticky, but then it would, like I dripped blood and it stayed looking like
Dude, I should have done that for the fucking Red video.
Did you buy real blood or buy like fake blood?
And it's like it was. I wish it was like sticky in some way because it was just like liquid. It was, it was not. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically like it's like thick sugary. Stuff. You know.
Was it hard to clean or like was
it?
I'm out here asking about the practicality of fake blood.
I think it was. I don't remember. My mom was like, so I was being like so careful with it, but I don't remember being very hard to clean. But I dripped it on this white shirt and it like stayed. So it's like, But when I started touching it, I like preserved it perfectly. But as soon as you start touching it more, it like rubbed off. Okay. So I would assume it probably would stain just as much as any dye thing. Right. But in terms of like, if you have a bunch of black clothes, I'm sure it just wash off. Yeah. So. It's just corn. It's just sticky corn syrup, but
hell yeah, fake blood.
Yeah, fake blood. So I was like, I just had this whole vision of like in your indoor sweater, like I don't know. We had talked about it for a while of us getting like beat up or something. Yeah, you know, and so I really wanted to like get the like Eli has like a fucking black eye and like choke marks on his like neck and like I have like a bloody nose and so.
So aside from the indoor sweater stuff, like we kind of touched on, I met you when you were doing a solo show. Mm-hmm. How did you get into performing and what was like that kind of like when was your first show and how was that feeling for you?
My first show, I guess, oh my God. I guess it would have been probably, a Wonder Boy show.
Yeah, I mean, before that, I guess... I mean, you also did you do shows with like your band stuff back in?
No, we never made it out of the attic.
Okay.
You know, truly.
Yeah.
God, I'm trying to think. I guess, did I ever play a show? Not really. I guess I just felt like I had a lot of practice performing because I was in like that vocals class and like, you know, we'd perform, you know, like just with each other, you know, so I felt like but the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, no, I guess I really wouldn't have. No, that's not true. Okay. So before Wonder Boy, I was still super into band stuff. I really had like a full circle where I was like, I only want to make band music. And I started hanging out with like Jimmy and you know and Skylar a lot and all these people. They're like rap, hyperpop, like look at all this fun other music. Mm-hmm. But before that, around that time, I started writing a bunch of music and my like friend's mom had a yoga studio that was huge. And had this big courtyard, and they did these like fundraiser things. And so for some reason, I don't know why, because I was emo as hell, you know. But she hired me and paid me to play my songs there. Okay. So I was like, I feel like there was one before Wonder Boy, you know. And so that was really cool. I just had to use my acoustic guitar, just being the songs are so emo. Where I think back on it, and I'm like, it was like a fundraiser, you know. Yeah. I don't know why she wanted me. She knew what kind of music I made, but it was fun. And so then, months to a year later, I was so close with Jimmy, and then he was starting to put on those Just Sunday shows. Mm-hmm. And so at the time, I'd really been just like a guitar friend. I felt like, but I had just started to just started to release music that wasn't like emo music, and I was like, I don't know. I think he might have asked me, or I might have asked him to be like, you know, I want to perform, and he had a house show. Where he was like, yeah, come play at this house show. Okay. And that had to be the first one as Wonder Boy. Cool. And so it was, I don't know. He did like 2 or 3 house shows, and I did those, but I can't remember.
Yeah. I met him at a house show. That's when I met him and Mick. Oh, okay. Which was right before Modus left for Atlanta, yeah. Mm-hmm. Were you at that one?
What was the house like?
I have no fucking clue. Some backyard.
It was a backyard.
Yeah, I think so. There was like
was there a pool?
Pictures from it. No, not that I know of. I was just there I don't know anyone. Like I was just anxious as fuck the whole time. But yeah, that's dope. Okay, and then you kind of just like continued from there with the biz shows for the most part.
Yeah, mostly. I feel like I kind of like did biz shows for a while, and then I kind of stopped. It was kind of like a year and a half where I didn't like kind of do anything. Mm-hmm. And I did have a crisis of like, oh my god, am I just like I got like medicated, you know, and I was like, oh my god, am I like only good at music if I'm like super depressed and like
I feel
crazy,
that.
you know?
Yeah.
And I really did have like I don't want to make music about being like happy. I mean,
Yeah.
not that it's bad, but I was like, that's not where I like, you know, making music about.
Yeah.
I had yet to realize how you can like, I don't know. I guess around that time then I really was like, how do I make music? And I kind of merged it with my story, my creative writing.
Yeah.
Where I was like, you know, it doesn't. Why does it always have to be something so like specific? You know, to me, you know, it's like I can write about something and tap into the emotions of it without, you know, if I want to write a song about like, you know, like I just wrote a song the other day about like falling in love with like a zombie girl, you know, and it's like obviously that doesn't happen to me, but it gives you like good practice to writing
it's
weird
like
lyrics.
definitely like storytelling driven. I feel like that is a big part of writing that like people forget or just don't even tap into, which respect either way if you do or don't tap into it, because some people are just so like everything needs to be me and what's going on in my life. But I feel like it is cool to kind of like step out of that for a few songs and just be like, let me just write about this concept, whatever. So that this was just an extra thought with what you were saying.
It's like the little, you know, the little Tekka Genius interview where he's like going to Japan, and he's like, I've never been to Japan. Yeah. And he's like, our friend, and he's like, I would never do that. You know, it's like, sometimes I feel like that, where I'll write a lyric, I'll be like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah. And then I'm like, you know, it's like, is it being a poser, or is it just being like, fuck it, it sounds cool, you know?
My early songs, I was saying some out-of-pocket shit that I was like, wait a minute, this is not, I would not be doing this. I'm not doing this right now. What am I talking about? Funny. Yeah. Storytelling in music is definitely a big part to unlock, I think. Yeah. But, yeah.
Wow. You look at, like, I know this is a silly one to bring up. I don't know if anyone's ever brought her up on your podcast yet. Taylor Swift. You know, I'm not a Swiftie necessarily, but she's kind of, you know, whatever. I guess my friends Taylor Swift aren't relevant to the podcast. But I was listening. She came on the other day, and I listened to her in my youth. You know, so I went back and I was like, God, she just tells a fucking story. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Every song is like, I was a willow and you were the thing, you know, or it's like, I saw you across the room, and, you know, and every song, and like, and I'm like, has half of this stuff even happened? Oh, guaranteed, you know? No. Like, no.
And also, like, the writers list is like, what, like 30 people? 1 million people, yeah.
But it's like,
they're just writing a book with every song.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, you know, but it's like when you listen to it, like, you are so, you know, like locked into what's gonna happen in these stories, you know. So
there's no doubt her songwriting is good. She frustrates me as a how she's been 100%. Marketed and the way that she good songwriter. She's a legend, I guess. Not my cup of tea, but
that was like I feel like that was part of my musical journey, was being like going from being so like fuck any genre that's not this one I like, to being like, okay, you know what? Even the artists that I'm not even a fan of, I feel like I can be like, if they're popular for a reason, why is that? You know, like
there's like, it's almost like a psychology thing, low key, when you really like dive into why someone like stuck so well, or you know, because I feel like there are a lot of artists that kind of come out of nowhere that, I mean, like the one hit wonder type of people sometimes, where like, you know, you see. Yeah, they do their thing, and then the decline of
TikTok,
it, and then, and TikTok did that shit. But it's also like, I feel like that could be created through like label type shit, seeing what happens. That's why people that like actually stick, it's interesting because they had that backup, and then the people that saw it through that label marketing or whatever, like actually stuck with the artist. Yeah, which is like, I don't know, that's interesting to me. So yeah, looking at artists that like really did it, it's super interesting.
There's this YouTuber, I don't know if I'm allowed to plug a YouTuber on your
I don't fucking care, go ahead.
But his name's Todd, because the music people watch this. His name's Todd in the Shadows, and my boyfriend showed him to me, and he does this all the time, where I'll be like, I wish there was like a YouTube video about this thing, and he'll be like, oh, there is. You know, and I was like, I wish there was a YouTube video. Like, I'd love to, like, so I get so fascinated by one hit wonders. Yeah. You know, I'm always wondering, like, what happened, even like old songs, you know, I'll be like, and what happened to them, you know, especially back in the day when it's like, now you meet one hit wonder and still make money off like sponsorships and stuff. But, like back in like the 80s.
Well, and the internet changed the game completely. Because I feel like back in the day, back in the old days, I feel like it was very much so like they released the single and did the whole, physical copies of it, whatever, blah, 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 got it played on the radio, blah, blah, blah.
And then it just
faded out. But also I feel like since it took so much like resources and money and stuff to make the physical copies of everything, I feel like that's why it's like, if they continued to make music and the label was like, well, it's not as good as this fucking song, they would just be dropped. Yeah,
exactly.
So I feel like, but nowadays with the internet, it's kind of just like,
it just sticks around.
Yeah, it's completely out of control. Like of people, but I don't know. I have no idea.
But there's this YouTuber, his name is Todd in the Shadows, and he'll dive into one-hit wonders, and he'll be like, this is how they got their start. And it's always songs you're like, oh my god, yeah, that song. Yeah. I forgot about that one song. And it always fascinates me, maybe in kind of like a scary way sometimes as a musician, because then it's like, but maybe research for how you don't let that happen to you, but it's so when I was like, I wish I could just like look at these artists. I get so interested in them. And he was like, oh, there's this whole YouTube channel where this guy that's his whole thing he does.
Interesting.
So it's like, it's just so interesting how one hit wonder versus artists where there's a lot of artists where I'm like, you're going to be a one hit wonder. Yeah. And that was like 3 years ago. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Okay. Like, I guess I just don't get it, Yeah. Yeah. They're doing something I'm not on their level, I guess.
So, okay. From you watching that channel, is that like, was what I was saying, did that make any sense? Like, is that was that brought up at all? Like,
because
at first I thought you were just bringing up the point of it.
No.
I'm like, oh, you're a seasoned veteran of knowing the one hit wonder lore.
Well, exactly. It would be a lot of like, they get really big and they get this one song pushed so hard, and then they'll go on tour and all this stuff, and then they'll release another song, and it just won't probably be as good. And so then all of a sudden the money that's backing them, which is, and it's weird how much the internet's changed that, because it used to be money, it still is, but way more so, money used to be the whole way you continued to be famous, right? Because it's like, if you release the single and and nobody reads about it in the newspaper or like sees a poster for it, they have no idea to buy it.
Just go and buy the record store and
so it's like, if you don't follow them because you're a really big fan, so it's a lot of that, where it's like their next single flops a little bit, and then it's like anything else they want to make is just not gonna have any funding, or they're gonna be dropped altogether. You know,
the next thing ends up taking over, and then they're just forgotten about. Yeah, damn, that shit is really interesting though. Now it's just like TikTok song, cool, okay, next.
Now it's happening at like a rate of like 20 million times faster. Where someone gets a song that blows them and they get you see artists where they'll be like, they'll have their top song will have like 3-4 million streams, and they'll have like 25 monthly listeners, and it's like, oh my god, like you see that, it is crazy.
The future of Wonder Boy. What do you have any upcoming plans with your solo stuff or with Indoor Sweater? What's the vibes? What's happening?
Yeah, that's funny you say that. I feel like I have like a close circle, like 3 friends, where I'm like, they don't even make music, but I'm always like, because I don't make music, they're the people sometimes I want to hear their thoughts on my music from. So I'll be like, what do you think of this? As just like a music liker, and so and then those people are always like, are you ever gonna release that song? My boyfriend has one song where he's like, it go perfect on this playlist I have, just like release this so I can put it on the playlist. And it was weird, I had kind of a crazy year, and so I was like, fuck, I don't know. And then it was like, before this crazy year, it was my year of like, I don't know what kind of music I'm gonna make, like I don't like, maybe I can't make music if I'm not like in a super bad rut, and then I got in another super bad rut, and my music, I did make good music again, but I realized how to make it without that also. There was some bangers.
Don't just think that you gotta be struggling for your life and then be like, okay, at least I can make music now.
But
although I guess that's a plus side.
It's like the one. I feel like that's really what it comes down to, is like the one outlet you can really have if you're struggling.
Right.
But
don't get stuck.
Yeah, but you can't get stuck. And I feel like I'm not stuck. I'm still making bangers. So that's how you know that you've locked in.
Good.
And so it kind of has been the past few months, like, because we just did the show with Indoor Sweater, and with my Wonderboy music, it's like I do really love being in a band, so I kind of had to think to myself, like, if there was one where I had to focus my time and energy, like, into shows, maybe not like music making, but into like shows, I was like, I should be Indoor Sweater, because that's like a live band.
Right.
It's not just me hopping on with my beat, which is still just as fun, but it's not as one's a lot harder, like, physically. It's like set up the whole shit. So I'm like, I can't give like 20% to Indoor Sweater. I should just give like 100% of like performance. I would like to do it on Wonderboy shows, but if I'm gonna be like, hey, give me a show somewhere, I'm gonna be like to push Indoor Sweater. So, but then I was like, but that, I guess that doesn't. I have so many Wonderboy songs, that I'm like, I guess it just doesn't stop me from doing what you do. Where you're just like, drop, Right. I'm trying to get better at not doing that, to be honest, but it gives you just, it's like you have so much music out there. And so I'm like, so then when you do other stuff, it's like, and Derek RINSEMA has like a gazillion songs too, where I'm like, Wonderboy, I feel like I have like 4 albums, of just things that I'm like, yeah, it's kind of good, but I never like fully mixed them or like fully whatever. So I'm like, I really do think the plan is just to start like dropping it,
Yeah.
And it's like whether, it's like, gets that many streams. I guess I just want to put it out there, you know, more so. It's like if all my energy is like Indoor Sweater, which is really where I think I want my stuff to go. It's like I still want my songs out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. That's definitely like, it's like your kid grew up and you're sending it off to college.
Yeah, exactly.
Like low key, it's like just follow through with it, and then
it's hard.
It's lots of tears.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, no. Especially with like I feel like the thing you have 100% control over. If you could just, the way I see it, at least for my own stuff, is like, if you feel like you want to release something, just release it, and there's no one else that's like waiting on you, or like just do it, whatever the fuck you want to do with it, and then put your energy whatever you want to put or wherever you want to put your energy, and then that kind of, I'm speaking like I know what I'm talking about, but I'm still in the rut of not knowing what I'm talking about. But you know what I mean, though.
No,
like
100%.
you could just put out what you want for your solo stuff, and then for band stuff, it's just the collab, wherever the collab takes it, and like it's fate in the collab, you know what I mean, like that.
And that, and that makes me think of another thing, which is that my other thing is I love making music with other people, where it's like, that's what, like, we made a couple songs, we need to make more songs together.
we do,
but like where I'll just link up with people, and I'll be like, let's make a song, so then I feel like, is it my song, is it their song, and it's like, and I have so many songs with other people that I'm like, those need to get released. More so sometimes I feel than my other songs, because I'm like, where it's like no one's waiting on me, where sometimes I feel like I'll be like, oh my god, we had such a good song and no one else gets to hear it. I
feel bad. We got 2 I haven't listened to in a minute.
I know.
I gotta listen to those.
I listened to them literally the other day.
Really?
Because sometimes I'll just like, my boyfriend will be on the car and I'll just be like scrolling through like music to listen to, and sometimes I'll go on my own music. And I was like, I think he had just met you at the show or something, or maybe you were just about to. And I was like, me and Derek have made music together. And he was like, oh, I didn't even know that. And I was like, yeah, because we never release it.
Yeah.
Because I never release music.
I'm sorry.
No, it's my fault. It's my fault. I'm like, no, because I never get on. And I'm just like, that was a good song.
Yeah.
And then it's
sick.
Like, cool,
now
bye.
It's in the vault. And
like locked in the vault.
Yeah.
And so, but I played I played both of them, but the one that was a little heavier.
Yeah.
He was like, that is so good. And he literally was like, you and Derek's voices go actually so well together.
Yeah, we got it.
And I was like, thank you.
Yeah, no, that song's really good. I haven't listened to that one in a while. I feel like when I think about our like the songs we've made, I think of the other one.
Yeah.
But
no, you give it another chance.
Yeah, I
gotta. It is a banger.
Which one?
Is it Inside?
Yeah. I gotta listen to that again. Fuck. Yeah. Damn. We should make something else too. We should make another
1,000,000%.
another banger to just lock away for years and then come back to.
Well, that's exactly my thing. So it's like when I think about my own music, I also look at my files and I'm like, and I have all these other songs with other people.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that was so good, and then I'm like, and now so I'm like, I really do want to just be like, I really was just talking about the other day where I'm like, fuck it, let's just be like, all right. It's kind of what you do. It's what Biz does, where it's just like dropping, being like, next week.
I gotta say though, So you saw, I guess, during this whole time when I was just like dropping fucking constantly.
Yeah.
I deleted all that shit.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now I only have 5 songs out.
Oh, okay.
So,
I guess that's good to like put on the record.
Yeah. Just for the record, when he's talking about all of the songs I used to have, but no, yeah, because now I'm like really trying to pick and choose and figuring out like my branding. I hate saying, because it feels like if you're a solo artist, you're just like being turned into a brand by yourself.
Right.
But like, I'm trying to figure out my branding,
your
too,
vibe,
and like the vibe of everything and whatever. So I've been trying to like push that music out more than anything else. But I've been also making some bangers with some people that I'm like, I don't know if this fits me anymore, but like I fuck with it.
See, those are the songs when you should be the feature. You know, like if like our songs, it should be like Wonderboy featuring there.
Yeah,
so then it's like
yeah.
it's not, doesn't have to be your vibe.
Right,
because you just dropped a feature on it. You know.
Yeah. That's facts, actually. I've thought about it that way, but I'm also like, I don't know if anyone wants to have me as a feature on this.
I want to have you as a feature.
Hell yeah, let's go. But yeah, it's just that type of stuff. But I'm always trying to make more. We should make more.
Yeah, we'll make some bangers.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, future. Drop that shit.
Yeah.
Drop that shit.
Yeah. So
in terms of indoor sweater, like, do you guys have stuff in the vault as well?
Yeah, we do have stuff in the vault, unfortunately. Okay. We actually have a whole EP we recorded. Now it's gonna get harder because Eli no longer is at the music school. Okay. So when we recorded these songs, was
he at? Where was he at?
At ASU.
Oh, ASU.
Yeah. And
so there are studios and shit there.
There's studios.
Yeah. Okay.
And we met up with this other guy one day, and who like was like a classmate, and we like we tracked all of the drums in this like amazing like studio, this bit, and it was awesome, and we like just a big open room like to record in, and it was so fun. And I guess I brought my actual amp, so then the guitar, a lot of times I record, I guess I've stopped, but for a while I would record just into the computer, and I was like, oh, it's got that good, it's got the exact tone. I was like, because we're playing live. Yeah. So it's like, it needs to be the tone they're going to hear live, Right, so it's like, it needs to be my pedal. And so, but now he's not there anymore. So it's like, thank God we record. So we have actually a whole EP that I just have to record the vocals on. I just haven't gone around to that, unfortunately. So I will. I keep telling them. I'm gonna finish it. But they're all written. They're all the songs we played the last 2 shows. Okay, yeah. And
those were good.
Yeah, and so a bunch of bangers. Yep. So, but just the drums are super nice. But then the guy was so weird because we were about to leave, we were about to play our show, and we recorded like that same week. And I was like, I want a song to drop around the time we play this first show, because that's the time people are gonna hear about us. It should be like we have a song out, and but then he's like, we're recording, and I'm like, okay, because I'll mix it. Because he was trying to talk like he was going to mix it. I was like, I don't know how long you're going to take to mix this shit, And so I was like, I'll mix it. And then he's like, okay, yeah. He's like, I'm leaving for like Russia tomorrow. And I was like, oh. And so I was like texting him like so late into the night, being like, hey, let me know when you send those. And then it was like the next morning he like sent him over. Okay. But it was like all of the individual drum mics. Yeah. And I was like, I've never mixed drums before. So I was like up, my girlfriend at the time was like sleeping next to me. Yeah. And I was like sitting up in her bedroom, like watching like how to mix drums on YouTube, like with my headphones on, like mixing the drums. But so I think I actually nailed. I actually ended up being really fun. Yeah. I realized how much it kind of fun to place the drums and listen to it and like build the sound of the kit back out. But I was like, oh my God. I was like, Jesus, I was like, I wanted to like turn it into like DistroKid like the next day, So I was like, fuck. Yeah. So.
Damn. And is that what ended up being Bunker Hill?
Yeah. So there's 3 more or 3 to 4 more songs that we have. Like all the instrumentals are recorded and mixed. Cool. So I just have to do the vocals. So that's the future of Inner Sweater, I guess. Is I want to drop that EP, but I don't know. I think maybe I don't know why I have this mentality that I like to drop things around shows. No, but that's it is smart. Like a promotional thing. Yeah. But to me, I'm like I think that's another reason why as Wonderboy I don't drop stuff. Because sometimes I do. It is like a little baby. So I'm like, I don't want to just drop it and be like, okay.
Yeah, just like that's it.
So that's like the lesson I'm trying to learn with Wonderboy is to do that. But I was like, for Indoor Sweater, I should stick to that. So I think I'm gonna try to record them soon. So next time we have a show, I can be like, like a couple weeks ahead of time. I can be like, okay, guys, and like the weekend of that show, we'll have our EP coming out.
Yeah.
All these songs, you can listen to them on Spotify now. So
yeah, that would be smart.
Ideally this summer, I guess. Indoor Sweater EP this summer, for sure.
Hell yeah. Heard it here first. Notes podcast Indoor Sweater EP coming out this summer. Whoa. No. Well, thanks for coming through. I really appreciate you.
It was
one more. We'll do. Yes.
Yeah.
There we go. But yeah, thanks for coming through.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. Go check out all of his stuff. His music's gonna be down in the description. I'll put the Wonder Boy links and the Indoor Sweater links. Just check them both out. Super dope. And yeah, episode 11. Peace out.
Peace.
Later.